All right, everyone, welcome back to Hot Route Takes. This is the NFL Week 8 preview show. It is me, Chase Owens, your co-host, along with my other two fellow friends, Christian Mills, Brian Sarver, ready to attack another week of NFL football, give you our week predictions and a few NFL and team takes of our own, and see what we're feeling as we approach the midway point of this NFL season. Firstly, we do want to get to the primetime game recaps, as we always do in these preview shows, and touch on those two games we didn't get to speak on in our last recording section. Brian, everything all right, buddy? You shaking your head. You don't want
What's
to
going
talk
on,
about it.
Brian?
About that game, bro. I mean, I was just started
Oh,
thinking about.
what was it? The Dolphins that played? Oh, I'm sorry, my bad.
No, it was the Eagles that played.
It
Chase.
was
Only
the
one team
Eagles.
was playing out there.
Yeah, so the first one, boys, we are going to touch on Brian's Miami Dolphins dropping to 5-2, a road loss on Sunday Night Football to the Philadelphia Eagles. 31-17, the final score of that one. Brian, obviously a Dolphins fan, our resident Dolphins fan on this pod. I'm going to let him touch on what he saw from that game and what Miami needs to do to correct, because they're 5 wins. There's a lot of talk that the 5 wins haven't been against strong teams. Obviously, you can play your schedule. That is what it is. But what's Miami got to do to beat the teams like Philadelphia in the future, Brian? What happened in this ball game?
So I think a lot of the time when you have injuries and things like that, it's next man up mentality, and that is what it is. You know, that's the kind of mentality every NFL team has to have, because every team's battling injuries. But specifically in this football game, the injuries that we did had really affected this big time, particularly when you're going up against the best defensive line in all of the NFL, and really probably every football team that exists right now, the Philadelphia Eagles. Um, we were out our starting center, our starting left guard, and our starting left tackle. And in the preview show, I had talked about our offensive line still, even though they're overperforming. I think we're a little bit lacking in talent in certain spots, particularly in depth. And we have two pretty injury-prone players on our offensive line, in Teron Armstead and Isaiah Wynn. Okay? And so losing our center, left guard, and left tackle against this front really made us struggle, because they were able to dominate the offensive line, take away the running game, and force Tua to drop back pass. And that has not been Tua's strength as a quarterback so far in his career. But I'm going to tell you this right now. Tua played a hell of a football game. If you go back and watch all 22, with guys in his face, he's throwing and anticipating openings, and he's hitting these windows, and the Eagles were game planning to stop that. They were anticipating the anticipation and muddying up those areas of the field, and Tua was consistently getting the ball out of his hands, avoiding taking hits, and making good decisions in an environment that was not for him. This is not supposed to be the game plan for Miami. And despite that, he played a great game, all except for one underthrow where I would argue there was definitely a pass interference on the play with Raheem Mostert in the end zone. Nonetheless, bad throw, poor play. But everything else, man, it was good. And then on the other side of the ball, we were lacking corners. Another day as a Miami Dolphins fan, lacking corners. Jalen Ramsey, not quite back yet. Xavier Howard misses this game. So we got Kader Coe, and we're also missing Nick Needham. So probably our first, second, and fourth corner being out. And then Javon Holland, our probably best safety. Well, definitely our best safety, but he ends up leaving and missing some time in this game as well. So a lot of beat up players in the secondary going against a good receiving corpse and A.J. Brown and Vonta Smith, and they were able to win at the catch point. We just couldn't stop it, man. They just continuously beat us at the catch point. Kader Coe, who's not a corner one, I think he's proven that after getting toasted by Stephon Diggs and A.J. Brown. So we couldn't get Jalen Ramsey and Xavier Howard back soon enough. And, man, props to the Eagles, though. They played a good game, very dominant on the line of scrimmage. Miami's defensive front and linebackers played a good game to keep this. They were not able to run the football very well. So, but credit to Jalen Hurts and credit to Nick Sirianni. And, man, I do not want to see another tush push for the rest of the season. Man, that play is just like unstoppable for Philly. But credit to them. They played a good football game. I think Miami they can play with the best teams in the NFL. I don't feel any kind of way about that. I'm confident in Miami, and anyone saying, oh, who have they beat? Well, you need to start paying your attention to Buffalo because they're struggling with those very same teams. So
I
would
like it,
say
Brian. I like it. I
credit to
mean,
Philly. Miami a little banged up. I would love to see this game when we're a little more healthy, but also screw the refs, man. They were definitely paid off.
oh
Golly.
my God. That
Golly.
was a huge talking point in quite a few games. Really, as always in the NFL season, every week there is questionable calls galore and seems to be getting too much attention rather than these talented players that we want to talk about on a weekly basis. So that's unfortunate. But lost in prime time on the road to Philadelphia is not the worst thing in the world. Miami's, like you said, still quite a good football team, and they'll look to bounce back this week. The other primetime game we got to touch on quickly was the Monday night football game between the Vikings and the 49ers. Another shocking loss for the Niners, back to back between Cleveland and now Minnesota on the road. What's going on with San Fran, guys? A team we love so much, yet Minnesota was out without Justin Jefferson, and they pulled out a primetime home Monday night football win. What'd you see from this one, Christian?
Yeah, my big thing is I just think the 49ers are not having Christian McCaffrey 100% changes this team. I think a lot. We see them with Christian McCaffrey, and then we've seen them also without him in the past. And just when he's 100%, it's a whole different team. And then you're also missing Debo, which I hit on in the last pod that, without Christian McCaffrey, that's the guy that you could sneak into the backfield. And just that's not an option when he's not there either. So I just think what happened in this game is just, they try to give it to Christian McCaffrey 15 times, not healthy, not getting that much on the ground. He did have the one big catch for a touchdown, but other than that, the offense, George Kittle did have a great day. I think it was his best game all year, but other than that, the offense just didn't look normal to, I guess anyone would say that. It just don't look what we expect from them. Throws to be there on time, delivered by Brock Purdy, and just Jordan Addison had a coming out party, I think, showing that he is good and, he could be a number one weapon possibly for this team moving forward. But I think for the 49ers, the defense is, I think, good, not maybe as great as people have made them out to be maybe, but you also got to think about what the Vikings are and how they just pass. So, to me, take it, the Vikings, they've done found what they're going to do the rest of the year, and that's going to be pass heavy. And just, I think you maybe want to look at Brock Purdy. If Christian McCaffrey's going to be hurt a couple more games and miss Debo another game, what this team kind of looks like in the next couple weeks too.
Yeah, really a low key point that I've been paying attention to with San Fran these last couple weeks, and something that's kind of making a little bit of noise is where is Nick Bosa, Defensive Player of the Year candidate, yet to really make an impact on this defense. We know how talented he is. He got the big payday right before the season started, so I need to see a little more from him, especially against the lesser offensive lines that he matches up against.
That just seems to be a Bosa thing this year. Ain't that right,
Chris? Okay.
I wasn't gonna
Listen,
go
Nick
there.
Bosa, I will say, I'm glad you brought that up, Chase. There was plays I would say that the Vikings, they acknowledged that he went there, and that's when they took their deep shots. And that's kind of when the big plays happen, is because Nick Bosa, for whatever reason, I'm not going to say it is an injury, but like Brian just said, the Bosa family, I think that is a history, injuries is a thing. So I think maybe that's something else people need to look out for is Nick Bosa and kind of what's going on behind the scenes with him. He just got his big payday, and now he's not playing every snap. Kind of a head scratcher.
Yeah, for sure. So that was the two primetime games we needed to touch on before we get into this Week 8 preview show. We've got a lot of good football games coming up this week to touch on. The first is going to be a Thursday night football game in Buffalo between the Bills and the Tampa Bay Bucks. The Bills, as we touched on in our recaps of Week 7, are coming off a brutal loss to the New England Patriots, something no one saw coming, whereas Tampa Bay lost a tight game on a walk-off field goal from Younghoe Koo at home against the Falcons. Both teams looking to bounce back and get a victory. I have Buffalo. They're the more talented team, and I think Josh Allen desperately needs a great performance to quiet a few guys out there that have kind of written him off for his up and down performances.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Buffalo here as well. I do think Tampa Bay has proven themselves, at least to an extent, that they are a capable football team, and Buffalo cannot come to this football game and lay a stinker like they had the last 2 weeks. They got to show up to play, and I do think they got the players and coaching to do so. It's just this consistency and finding the right rhythm of and run pass ratio and just kind of finding themselves again offensively. And then defensively, just continuing to deal with the injuries that have plagued them so far this season. But I do think a quarterback like Baker Mayfield, not much of a threat on the ground, is going to have to beat them through the air, and they still play a sound defensive system with their zone match, and they still got good players on the back end. And I expect Josh Allen to find his rhythm again. I do think he's still a really good quarterback, a high-level quarterback. But the consistency thing's got to be a problem at this point. It's a trend. It's not just 1 or 2 games here or there. It's been over the last several years. He just doesn't show up to play or just has an off day, you know. But Buffalo, still a good team. I'm going to continue to pick them. I expect them to come out of the slump.
Yeah, I just kind of can't get over how good Mac Jones played against this team last week, and just the 25 for 30 attempts with people have been arguing no weapons. They don't have this in New England, and now you're going to play a Tampa Bay team with Mike Evans has been playing great. I mean, Godwin is still on that roster. He's been having some up and down. So, I mean, I'm going to lean towards honestly, Tampa Bay in this game. I think it's going to be an upset.
Ooh.
I think, with the weapons that the Bucks have and how Baker's kind of been having some highs and lows like Josh Allen, I just think this game comes down to, I think Buffalo's missing some things on defense because of injuries, just the new defensive coordinator and the head coach taking that role now for this season. I just don't know how Buffalo's going to get over losing to New England that fashion. I think it's going to hurt this team, and they're kind of, I ain't going to say not be over it, but they're going to just come in this game with maybe too much emotion, and that maybe is going to get in the way. And I just see Mike Evans having a field day against this beat-up Buffalo corner room.
Yeah, since the Tre'Davious White injury, the secondary has been pretty suspect, and as you touched on, Christian, getting lit up by Mac Jones, who had been on the heavy struggle bus, like struggling more than any NFL QB, is head-scratching to say the least. So that'll be a fun Thursday night football game to watch tomorrow night. As we get to the Sunday slated games, the first one I've got here is an interesting NFC matchup. I think it's kind of 50-50, but according to Pick'em, it's pretty heavy towards Dallas right now. I had a tough time in this one. I really wanted to pull the trigger on the Rams as the road team and coming off a loss to Pittsburgh to bounce back. But right now, I think Dallas is coming off a bye, an emotional good win against the Chargers in the week previous. So that and the more talented roster, in my opinion, especially on defense, was what ultimately landed me on Dallas in this football game.
Yeah, do we want to move kind of quick through some of these?
Yeah, I know we're already
I'll
at
pick
12.
my team, but I'll just pick and then move on.
Yeah, we do picking like what we were doing last week. Just one little 2 words and just move on.
Besides our divisional teams.
Yep,
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah,
All right,
love it.
so yeah, I'm going to go Dallas here as well. I just think the Rams do not have enough on defense, and I think it's too centric on Stafford, Kupp, and Nakua on offense.
Yeah, I'm going to go Dallas, and just real quick, it's just Matthew Stafford hasn't been staying upright. Offensive line's beat up, and now you're playing a Dallas defensive line.
Love it. So next one we got an NFC North matchup. The Minnesota Vikings, who we touched on earlier in this pod, traveling to Green Bay. I think Green Bay is more desperate in need of a win, especially with that loss to Denver last week. But even without Justin Jefferson, I'm taking Minnesota. I just think Green Bay's offense is taking a step back after those first couple weeks to me.
Yeah, I'm going to lean Green Bay here just because I think they're kind of due, man. There's been some really poor performances on both sides of the ball for Green Bay the last couple of weeks, but I'm going to stick with it. I'm not a believer in Minnesota's defensive line or defense and their ability to stop the run. So I'm going to go Green Bay.
I'm going to go with Minnesota just because, one, Jordan Love, and I think right now he's like averaging the most like deep ball thrown. And I think with the Vikings coming into town, and I mean, Brian knows their defensive coach, I think they're going to be sending the heat, and Jordan Love ain't going to have a choice but to throw the ball out quick. And I think that's going to be some errors coming to happen.
I like it. Next one we got here is the Atlanta Falcons and the Tennessee Titans. The news in this one, what I'm hearing is Will Levis will be the starter in this football game. So that's going to already steer me towards Atlanta. And if we get any type of clarification that Bijan is healthy and ready to go, you can pretty much stamp me for Atlanta in this game. That's what I got as of now. What about you guys?
Yeah, I got Atlanta as well. Looks like Tennessee's starting their fire sale. So,
yeah.
Yeah, I'm going Atlanta just because, like y'all said, I hear that Will Levis and Malik Willis will both get time, and this Atlanta defense has actually been playing pretty good. So, with two young quarterbacks in, I think there's at least some veteran pieces on their defense can make some noise.
I like it. I like it. The next one, we've got the Saints on the road in the Indianapolis Colts dome. It'll be a battle of dome teams here. The Colts coming off that heartbreaking loss to Cleveland. The Saints dropped the Thursday night football game to Jacksonville, so both teams looking to bounce back with a win. Kind of split 50-50 toss-up according to Pick'em here, but ultimately I went with the Colts. I don't really know why. I just think they're playing better football, even though they may not be as talented.
Yeah, I went with the Colts as well, and it kind of came down to their running game working as well as it is right now, and Derek Carr still not finding that rhythm and sync with his receivers.
Yeah, I was going to say something last pod about it. I'm going to keep it short and simple, but, for me, Derek Carr, I mean, this is the second year in a row where it looked like his dick fell off while he was playing football. So I don't know what's going on with Derek Carr with this happening again. But I'm going to go with the Colts just because I think we've seen what they did against the top defense, you could argue, in football, and now they're playing the Saints defense. It just has not been performing to where they're supposed to be.
All right, love it. Next one is the AFC East. The Pats coming off that big win, traveling to Miami, as Brian has touched on. What you got in these game notes for this game, Brian?
I think Miami's going to win this one. I think New England is a divisional opponent, and they're going to come to play. It looks like they found some life on both sides of the ball last week against Buffalo. So, I'm not saying 100% Miami. I think it is going to be a competitive game this time around. It was pretty decently competitive last time. But I think the difference maker in this football game is going to be Miami's defensive line. I think they're first in the NFL right now in sacks, and this New England offensive line is just not ready for Miami's front. So I think Mac Jones is going to have a long day, and I definitely know that Miami's offense is going to look to score some more points. They only scored 10 offensive points in that last football game, so they're going to be coming out ready to prove a point against a New England team, even though New England's not a very good team. That our strength of schedule is just not good. So expect us to lose this game.
Goodness. Who you going with, Chase?
No, not a lot of comments here. Miami big, probably 2-3 touchdowns, if I had to guess.
Man, I'm gonna say I'm not gonna say Miami big. I'm gonna say Miami wins, but I'm interested to see how the offense looks without Tyreek Hill. But I just think the defensive line is going to be too much for Mac Jones.
That hasn't been confirmed yet, I don't think. The Tyreek Hill.
He ain't gonna play, man. Midget syndrome. He ain't gonna play.
Midget syndrome.
Oh my god!
All right.
No backflips this week in the end zone from Tyreek Hill is what you're saying.
That's why he got hurt.
Hey, next one,
If he
guys.
caught the ball, he might have had an opportunity to do a backflip. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, I know you do not believe any Tyreek Hill slander. You're on your knees every night thanking the Lord that man came to Miami.
I'm very grateful for Tyreek Hill.
As you should be, brother. We'll move it along, guys. We got a battle of the New York teams. The Jets, technically the road team in this matchup with the Giants. Giants coming off that win against Washington. 3-3 for the Jets, 2-5 for the Giants. I've got the Jets. I believe more in the defense right now. I think it'll be a close game, probably go down to the wire, but give me Zach Wilson and company.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Giants. I think they're going to continue to build on what they've been doing on the defensive side of the ball. And the running back, Saquon Barkley, in the running game, they're not going to be able to pass the ball. I think that's just going to be a running attack with occasional, play action bootleg Tyrod Taylor. I will say if Daniel Jones plays in this game, I will change my pick immediately.
Oh, Tyrod Taylor, man. Love to see it. But whatever Brian's talking about, you take me off of that. I'm going Jets, and Jets, baby, all the way, because I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball, pass the ball. I don't care if it's Tyrod Taylor, whoever it is. I just think this defense is going to be too much for an offense that finally got their first offensive touchdown as of, last week. So I'm not going to go all on that. And Zach Wilson, I ain't going to say looked impressive, but week to week it is getting a little better.
Yep. All right, the next one, guys, we've got the 5-2 Jacksonville Jaguars coming off that win on Thursday Night Football. traveling to Heinz Field or whatever they call it nowadays. Pittsburgh 4-2 on the year. Great high-powered offense versus a great pass rush and Mike Tomlin-led defense. I always doubt Pittsburgh, and I still think Jacksonville is better. But I'm going to pick Pittsburgh for no god-awful reason. I hate this team. I will always hate the Steelers, but they keep finding a way to prove me wrong, and they just keep finding a way to win games. I think Jacksonville is so much better. Trevor is so much better than a quarterback than Kenny Pickett, but somehow they'll get a punt block, and Jacksonville kicker will miss 3 field goals out of nowhere, and somehow Pittsburgh will win. I don't know how, but it seems to happen every week.
I'm going to go Jacksonville, and I just think this is a really poor matchup for Pittsburgh in that their strengths are Jacksonville's strengths, and I don't think they'll be able to run the football against Jacksonville's front. And, George Pickens is a good receiver, but they got big physical corners. I think this is going to be Jacksonville, and I think it might be big.
Man, I'm kind of was going back and forth, but I mean, Trevor Lawrence health, he did go down with an injury, so I thought about that, and I think this Pittsburgh defense is going to go after him, but just talent-wise, like Chase said, man, you don't want to go to Pittsburgh, so I mean, my heart won't let me go that route just because I just think Jacksonville's too much talent on that side, and Travis Etienne could be arguably one of the top 3 backs right now in the league, so I'm just going with Travis Etienne leading the way, at least for this season. The stats and numbers he's picking up, I think he maybe can have some success against this defense.
Honestly, here for it. I'm really picking that pick, hoping to be wrong, because I'm tired of Pittsburgh winning these games they're not supposed to. I sound like such a hater right now as a Ravens fan, but y'all are with me. Y'all don't see talent on this roster in galore like the record's proving right now. So we'll see what holds in Week 8 against the Jaguars at home. Moving on, we've got the NFC East matchup. Those Philadelphia Eagles coming off that big win against the Dolphins in primetime, traveling to Washington to take on the Commanders, who dropped the game to the Giants last week. Obviously, I think Washington needs the game more, but no way am I picking an upset in this one. Give me Philadelphia by a couple touchdowns.
Yeah, I'm going Philly too, especially when you have a team as good as Philly is and you also have the refs on your team. It makes things a lot easier. And so I'm sorry, man.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going Philly. I think there's just too many ways they can beat you, and Sam Howell's going to get sacked a lot in this game. He's going to get sacked a lot. He might get sacked over 10 times. Yeah.
One thing we hadn't hit on yet that I forgot to maybe say at the top of the pod is they did trade for Kevin Byard off of Tennessee. I think that's a great ad for this secondary that's kind of been missing a piece, and this is kind of like what they did for Garner Johnson last year. So I think with that addition, I feel like really locked down the secondary has been having problems, and just A.J. Brown is a monster right now. So I just don't think Washington has an answer for that. So I'm going definitely Eagles.
Love it. Next one, guys, we've got the 3-3 Houston Texans traveling to Carolina, still the only winless team in the NFL. Do the Panthers pull the upset and get their first win? It's a no from me, dog. I'm taking C.J. Stroud to emerge in this rookie QB matchup and get the Texans to a winning record.
Yeah, I think Carolina Panthers are going to be a sad fan base when they get to watch C.J. Stroud play and realize they took the wrong quarterback. I'm going to continue to harp on that. Poor Panthers fans out there. I'm sorry, but I'm going to go Houston.
I think Tank Dell's coming back this week, so I think that's another good piece for Houston to add into their passing offense. It's been looking pretty good this season, so I just think Houston definitely defensive coach is the head coach of mine, so I think we're going to see a lot of mistakes probably out of Bryce Young out of this game, so I think Houston wins pretty big in this game.
Like it. Next one, guys, we've got the 4-2 Cleveland Browns, who will be without Deshaun Watson. PJ Walker starting another game. This time it'll be on the road against the 12th man and the Seattle Seahawks and that electric crowd. I don't really have much to push me towards Cleveland. I know they have a good defense, but PJ Walker on a road in a hostile environment against Seattle offense that's starting to click a little more. Give me the Seahawks in this one.
Yeah, I had a hard time picking this game. I think these are pretty evenly matched teams for my money. What I ultimately settled on is I'm going to go Cleveland here. because I believe in their defense, like to a high extent. I don't care what happened last week with the Colts. You know, every team has a down week. I'm gonna go Cleveland here, and it's because Geno Smith's going to have to prove to me that he can win against good defenses where things are not so easy.
Dang. I thought I was going to be the only one to pick Cleveland, but I guess not. I was going to pick Cleveland for the same reason that Brian kind of did. Just when Geno has played some top defenses this year, it just has not looked good. And I think, DK Metcalf, I think he might be coming back, but if not, that's also another piece that they're missing on this team. And then I just think Kenneth Walker's been having a great year too, but I just think against this defense, he's going to have to work for it. And I think after what happened last week, no way this defense allows a bad performance again. So that's why I kind of went Cleveland, just thinking in that route.
Gotcha. I got you guys. All right. Well, anyone bold enough to take a Denver Broncos team at home against the Kansas City Chiefs by show of hands? Nope.
Come on, Brian.
Nope. Nobody? Yep. All right. I think that settles that one, guys. I don't have much to say else. Give all three of us taking the Chiefs in this one. So moving on, we've got my Ravens traveling to Arizona for a West Coast game against the 1-6 Cardinals. Obviously, coming off one of our the best win of the year, put us at 5-2. Lamar currently I think the highest graded quarterback by PFF grades right now. So he's playing outstanding football. Still things I think we can clean up. So I want to build off that performance. I think the defense has been lights out, but I'm still watching the offensive side of the ball and the involvement of Rashad Bateman and OBJ and determining what type of ground game looks like against these defenses that you should dominate the line of scrimmage on. So that'll be what I'm watching and hopefully rooting for as I've got the Ravens moving to 6-2. Although don't count the Cardinals out. They're playing hard every week. So, obviously I don't want to upset, but I would not be shocked because the Ravens have been so up and down so far.
Yeah, I'm going to go Baltimore, and I don't have a whole lot to say here. I think this is a good opportunity for Lamar Jackson to continue to develop in this offense and just kind of continue to find that right ratio to pass to run, as every Ravens fan out there knows is critical this season.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely going Baltimore. To Arizona's playing that bend but don't break defense, and I think this will be, a week that maybe Baltimore opens up that run game some more and do some short passes and just work on the short game maybe this week just because how Arizona's just been playing that bend but don't break defense.
Gotcha. Yep. Like it, guys. Hopefully we can continue our winning ways in this NFL Week 8. Moving on to another AFC North team. They have a tough challenge, the Cincinnati Bengals at 3-3, traveling to the 5-2 San Francisco 49ers. 49ers, as I said at the top of the pod, coming off back-to-back losses. That is a huge motivation for them to stop that losing streak, and for that reason, I'm picking them in this football game. I think Cincinnati's slowly finding things, but they may be playing a good team at the wrong time, as sometimes that's just the way it breaks in the NFL season. So give me the 49ers. I think it'll be a good game, though.
Yeah, I'm going with the 49ers as well, and I think Sam Darnold is starting in this football game because Brock Purdy is in concussion protocol. Although Brock Purdy's played really well, I actually think Sam Darnold, and I said this in the preseason, can really be effective in this offense. I think this is a quarterback-friendly offense. I think Darnold does have a better arm than Purdy. He may lack some of the intangibles, like the anticipation and maybe some accuracy. But he does give an element to this offense that isn't there with Brock Purdy in there, and that is the ability to push the ball down the field a little bit more, although he's a little bit more of a statue in the pocket. But I am going to go 49ers here.
Man. Now I went back and forth the most on this game, and just I kind of locked on Cincinnati just because one, Jamar Chase, since his comment about being open, this offense just is going better. Maybe Joe Mixon can get into the pass game. I don't think he's going to be able to run in this game, but I just think one, Joe Burrow, the pocket's going to be a big thing for me. It hasn't been clean all year, but I just think they can do enough with Jamar Chase to kind of take off this 49ers team that's dealing with a lot of injuries on offense. And just now you're telling me Sam Darnold's going to start, so I just would rather put my money on Joe Burrow than Sam Darnold at this point.
Gotcha. All right, guys, let's quickly get through these two primetime games and we'll get to our takes of the week. The first one, it features your Chargers, Christian. The Bears will be traveling to LA to take on the 2-4 Chargers. I've got LA winning this game. They obviously need a big win after back-to-back losses to Cowboys and Chiefs. So give me the Chargers in this primetime home game.
Man, I almost picked Chicago. I really did.
Okay.
Dude,
This guy.
they've been running the football. They've been running the football
Okay.
really dang good. And their backup quarterback, Badgett or whatever, actually played pretty well last week. And if I can really see this happening, but I am going to go with the Chargers. But, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep my comments very short. I did talk about them a lot, in the last pod. But my big thing is, like Brian just said, this is a young quarterback, rookie quarterback, and we have a defensive-minded head coach. So all I'm gonna do is keep it there. And if somehow we lose this game, somebody upstairs gonna be making a phone call about somebody losing the job because he should be getting embarrassed out there with this Chargers defense. It's got so much money, spent on the edge, Derwin James, and then these corners that. I mean, honestly, like I said last week, get out of the zone, play some man-to-man, and make this quarterback really work for it.
Yep.
I'm going Chargers, but like Brian said, I mean, Foreman, last week had a field day, so that scares me already. But if anything, I think our offense will be able to put up enough points where we won't have to really worry about Chicago.
That's where my head is on this game, Christian. So, agree with you there. Last one, the Monday night game, guys. We got Vegas traveling to Detroit. 3-4 for Vegas, 5-2 for Detroit, both coming off losses. I've got Detroit bouncing back. We really smacked them around, and I think that they're ready to prove that that was just a 1 week thing. They're still a really good football team, so give me the Lions in this one at home.
Yeah, I'm going with Lions as well. After getting spanked last week, they're probably going to come out looking to prove something. And I still think they're a good football team, and I still think the Raiders are not. So I'm going to go Lions.
Yeah, I'm definitely going Lions. I don't care if I think Jimmy G maybe possibly can come back in this game, or he is expected to be back, but I don't think that changes anything. I think just Detroit got way beat up last week, and I can only imagine what Dan Campbell has done to that team this week. I expect them to come out very quickly and take over this game very fast like.
Okay, that'll do it, guys, for our NFL Week 8 picks. We've got a fun week of NFL football coming up. And to pair with that, with this podcast episode, we're going to give you our team takes of the week. Each of us will give a team take on a player, position, trade, anything of that nature involving our team and where we can move forward and what the other guys think revolving that take. Mine, on my Ravens, has to do with a trade deadline move. Obviously, we had the Kevin Byard trade this week. Things start ramping up as we approach this trade deadline. I'm seeing a lot of running backs names floated out there, and the Ravens are always a strong target for that. Say one of those guys becomes available. What's the most you give for a Derrick Henry or Saquon Barkley? They could be different values. In my mind, they're different values, but it's already been reported that the Ravens have shown high interest in a Derrick Henry. With the loss of a J.K. Dobbins, they're missing that explosive player in their backfield to partner with Lamar Jackson. So I'm not against a trade like that, but at the same time, I'm not going to mortgage a future for a aging back or something like that. So I want to hear your guys' takes on what you think that looks like in this Ravens offense and what's the most you're willing to give up as far as draft capital.
Have they said Saquon Barkley was on the market? Or
I've heard that name floated around. Giants probably aren't willing or ready to move on, whereas Tennessee is probably pretty motivated to move on from Derrick Henry at this point. So that's a name I'm really seeing more of. But
I think if Barkley's available, I think you go after him. I just think he's that kind of talent. And I've always kind of been high on Barkley, maybe compared to the consensus media. I think he's an extremely good player. He's just being held back by the Giants. But Derrick Henry would be a very interesting fit in y'all's offense. I think that he would really take some pressure off Lamar, and you can pound him. I mean, he's the kind of back you can give bunches of carries between the tackles, and I'm not going to say the joke that y'all made me think about, but
you said
I'm sorry.
I
was trying to hold it together
like nothing happened, but
I was trying to hold it together. My bad.
I couldn't, but Chase lost it too much for me. But you can pound them. Yeah, I'll follow you.
Derrick Henry and Lamar can pound it, and
Jesus.
No, I think Derrick Henry would be an awesome addition to the Ravens offense, man. I think he's just a unique generational talent. And
what do you give up for him? Because I agree with you 100%. He's better. than what we have now, especially, and he brings a different dynamic to the offense. But I'm still, for an aging back, I'm not dipping into a first round. Last
Oh
year, we
no.
got Roquan Smith for a second round pick and extended him. So you don't really have a high priority to extend Hendry at my perspective with his age and given the position. So it's really a rental to me. So I'm not giving a first or second round pick for him. Later round pick for sure, but is Tennessee willing to take that after Henry has been the face of that franchise for the last few years? I don't know.
So I'm trying to look at some recent trades. So the 49ers traded a second, third, fourth, and fifth for Christian McCaffrey. LaShawn McCoy, which I think is a more close comparison.
Comp, yeah. Christian was definitely better at his age and just a better player at this point. So.
He was traded for players. He was traded for Alonzo and Latavius Murray.
Okay.
So I would say maybe a fourth round pick. He's a 30-year-old running back, but I think you could start to get outbidded because I think there are teams that may be willing to send a third for Derrick Henry. So I would say it's somewhere in that ballpark, but definitely not a first or second round pick in my opinion. But I think a team like Buffalo would be willing because they're nearing the end of their Super Bowl window. They kind of could use a difference maker at the running back position. I know James Cook's been good, but Derrick Henry's on another level. I think he could be very good. So maybe you can get outbidded, but I'm thinking third or fourth pick.
I'm with you. What you got on that take, Christian?
Out of all of them, I have heard kind of what you said. Derrick Henry is who y'all have shown the most interest in, and which I think is a great thing. I think, if anything, if y'all get him, kind of what Tennessee went away from is getting him involved in the passing game. I think y'all would bring that back, and I'd add to more of what he could do for y'all. And I just think, read option with him and Lamar Jackson. You just think about all the things you can do with a Derrick Henry, and that's why I kind of disagree with Brian with the whole third and fourth round, because there's going to be teams just coming in there with second round picks. So I know you're not going to want to hear it, but I think it's going to be a second-round pick, and you're going to trade a young player somewhere on the team also with him, because Tennessee's going to want pieces now they're not coming out saying they are doing a rebuild. So you're going to have to give them something worth something at least, and then you're going to have to trade them a pick. We just seen them trade, Kevin Byard for a fifth, a sixth, and a player in Evans. So, they're not just trading for nothing. They're getting their worth out of what they're trading away. So I think that's the only problem. But I just think the potential with him in the offense, definitely you make it to the playoffs, which if y'all keep on the track you're on now, you will make it more than likely. So you add that to a playoff push when it's colder ball too, and you're running the ball and just having Lamar throw it 15, 16 times. There's too many pros in that, just not to maybe, I ain't going to say it, sell the house, but it's Derrick Henry. I don't care how old he is at this point. That's how I look at it.
I'm going to follow
that's the thing.
Shortly.
That's what scares me. The running back, that we've talked on this in previous pods, that position itself is so volatile. And moving forward, I get what you're saying, Christian. If it was that final move to push you over the top, I'm fine with giving up a little more than he's probably worth. But I don't really think the Ravens are in that position. They're a good team. They're a great team, I think. But are they a Kansas City? Are they a Philadelphia, San Fran that you add a really good player and you're like, whoa, this is a favorite? I don't think they're that. So I think their best is just if they can get them for a good deal, which they seem to usually take that route anyway. If not, keep your draft picks. You usually draft well. You'll probably find someone worth picking in those rounds. So that's my take on the Ravens for the week, guys. What you got on your Chargers and Dolphins?
You want to go first, Christian?
I've kind of beat the head coach thing on the Chargers, so I kind of went back to an old take we had, but I'm going to keep it in my division, and that is Josh McDaniels. So just, I seen this the other day. He's blown 5 double-digit leads, lost to a high school coach while he's been in the NFL, lost to Baker Mayfield, who was traded to the Rams 3 days prior, lost to a Division II quarterback last week to the Bears, and failed to score 20 points offensively in 9 of his last 10 games. So I just think, I guess I can tie it into my Chargers by saying, if this year goes as bad as we're thinking, maybe possibly the Chargers can end and the Raiders instead of our Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels. I mean, now you're looking at my coach and Brandon or their coach over there and Josh. Which one kind of do y'all feel in this division, if one of them was to get fired from that head coaching spot, who would you lean towards more now instead of it being what we were saying, just a few weeks ago?
You have something, Chase? I have something. I'll go if you don't.
I'll go. I don't have an extended answer. I think it's pretty clear to me. I think it's your guy, Christian Staley. He is on one of the hottest seats in the NFL. And given the quarterback that you have, missing the playoffs is pretty much just unacceptable. I don't care. There's been far lesser rosters with the lesser quarterbacks that have taken that team to the playoffs. So that just boils down to poor head coaching, in my opinion. And a miss of the playoffs would grant that, especially when you consider Vegas and Denver are not the teams that we thought they would be these last couple years. Like, they do not look like playoff contenders whatsoever in a crowded AFC. So it's really the Chargers. The second place in the division is there for the taking. It has been the last couple years, and they just need to find a way to win some of these close games. And if that doesn't happen, I think it's a easy bet your savings Staley is out of there.
So I have a couple thoughts on that. I think it's a really good question, Christian. So first thing I would like to touch on is the talent discrepancy between the two teams. I think the Chargers have a much more just talented roster in general on both sides of the ball. And I think the Raiders have a dysfunctional front office and GM. I mean, I think they've proven that just time and time and time again. So I think they're going to cling to Josh McDaniels and hoping that this guy's some sort of savior. And all the NFL teams out there, I look at the Raiders as one of the least impressive teams as an entire just franchise and the most bleak outlook going forward, just from my standpoint and what I think of them. But I think the other thing is the Chargers have like I said, a very talented roster, and they went to the playoffs. They obviously have confidence that they have a good team. But Brandon Staley's defensive-minded head coach, and we've last several years, I think if you were to just bottle it all up and look and point a finger at someone, I think damn near everyone's going to point it at Staley. I just think that there's been bad decisions made, bad coaching calls, like critical moments in the game where he makes a bad decision, and he's gotten better at that, but his forte is the defensive side of the ball, and they've invested all this money in the defense, and it's still horrible. Like, it's not even average. It hasn't even shown glimpses of being average. It's just been bad. And they're holding Herbert back and wasting his prime. They're wasting Austin Eckler's prime. This is like frustrating as all get out from my perspective, not even being a Chargers fan. They're wasting Keenan Allen. They're wasting Mike Williams. And if you talk to Chargers fans who have been extended Chargers fans, my brother is, Christian has been a Chargers fan. They wasted Phillip Rivers. They wasted LT. I mean, this is a trend for them. And if I'm the owner, I look at this and I say, we need a clean slate. There's been bad contracts given out. J.C. Jackson, I mean, they just gave him a huge contract, turned around, traded him for a 6th-round pick swap. And so they need to clean house. They need to get a new GM and head coach in there. And I think there would be guys lining up to take that job.
Lining up.
I mean, getting to work with Justin Herbert, who doesn't want to line up to take that job, honestly? You really just need a more competent front office to put the pieces around them. And I completely agree with what you're saying, Brian. So it's no shock that both of us feel that way about Staley as we do. Interesting and a good question for this week's pod, Christian. We'll move it on. Brian, you got your Dolphins take, and then we'll get a few more and get out of here.
So mine is player related, and it's my boy. I think there is a major discrepancy in two players that have similar styles of play. And I'm going to be comparing Tua Tagovailoa to Brock Purdy. I think they're both players that win from a mental standpoint, from an accuracy and anticipation, with a little bit of athleticism mixed in there. But just the way these two players are portrayed to the average fan in the media and how they talk about them. You search Brock Purdy's name on YouTube, you'll be like, what happened to the 49ers offense? Oh my goodness, they lost some players. It's not Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy's a good player. I think, if he just put the right pieces around him, he can be really good. Mr. Irrelevance really changed the team. He's an upgrade from Jimmy Garoppolo. And then you search Tua Tagovailoa's name. Go ahead. If you think I'm lying, I'm going to read some of these. Tua Tagovailoa is overrated. Shannon Sharp on fire. Have we overestimated Tua Tagovailoa and the Miami Dolphins? Tua Tagovailoa is a fraud. Really? They
Tua
went
has a noodle arm.
Philly's house were without 3 offensive linemen all in a row against the best D-line in the league, and he was giving his guys a chance. Tyreek Hill drops a touchdown. At that point in time, they're driving down by a score on 4th down, and face mask penalty. Kills the drive. Touchdown. Holding. Back it on up. Take touchdown off the board. There was just 1 or 2 plays in this game. The narrative's completely different, man. The refs call a decent game. I'm not saying fair. It was just egregious in this game. I know there's been egregious games elsewhere, but man, it was egregious, guys, in this game. And I just think there's a large discrepancy out there between the way people view Tua and the way people view Brock Purdy, and I'm not really sure why. Like, it just doesn't make sense because Tua's asked to do more in this offense. He is in a lesser position. I don't care if he's got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. That offensive line is just not where the 49ers is, and it's also newer. Like, this is a newer offense. It is a second year, but Shanahan's been doing that for a long time and building that thing out for a long time. There's a lot of continuity in that offense. So, yeah, that's my take. What do you guys think?
Well, Bron, we've talked a lot, and I mean a lot off pod, about why some guys get certain narratives around them and where the Golden Childs, the Josh Allens, the Patrick Mahomes can have these poor performances and it really be swept under the rug. Joe Burrow became that after his Super Bowl run, really. And the poor start to his season really wasn't talked about much.
Nope.
But Lamar goes out week 6 against Pittsburgh, has the highest graded PFF grade in football that week, but his receivers dropped 7 passes, 3 touchdowns. And the first thing you see on ESPN the next morning, are the Ravens getting their money's worth with Lamar Jackson? It's the way it is, man. Certain guys have their qualities that provide doubt to the NFL consumer and these NFL analysts. One being Lamar's pocket passing ability, Tua's arm strength.
Brock Purdy's got like the same arm though. It's like,
and that's the thing. Once it's out, like Tua's been doing this longer, right? So the first thing that people said when they made that Tyreek Hill trade, oh, he's about to underthrow every deep ball. He can't get the ball to Tyreek Hill deep. And that became just known. That was the running joke. The Lamar being a running back. That's the running joke. That's what everyone knows when they first see their name popping up in any headline. That's what they immediately think. Whether it be a stereotype that's true or not, that's where their mind goes. So it's just the way it is. And I mean, a lot of it, all of us have really quit consuming ESPN and First Take and all these talk shows as a whole on the regular. I know growing up, that was my religious day before school. I'm turning on Sports Center. When I get off school, I'm watching the Around the Horn and all those talk shows to hear their opinions on these NFL quarterbacks and players. Today, it's you have a take. Make sure yours is egregious and gets talking and gets ratings and gets clicks, and we'll move on from there. Whether you believe it or not, who knows? But that's just the way it is. As the great man once said, that is just the way it is. I don't have an answer for you, Brian. I think Tua's a hell of a quarterback. I think my guy's a hell of a quarterback. And I'm just in the product of, instead of trying to build or tear some of these guys down for what they can't do, I want to build all these guys up. Like Brock Purdy being Mr. Irrelevant and had not losing a regular season start in the amount of time that he did. That's something to be celebrated. Like, he's a good quarterback. Celebrate what he's doing. Celebrate what Tua's doing in that offense and the emergence of as a young star quarterback ready to get a payday. Celebrate Lamar getting paid as his own agent, the largest contract in NFL history. Like, celebrate these things. Stop tearing other players down to build someone else up. I get personally tired of that a lot. So I like that question and that point for this take. Christian, you may want to go a different direction. I know you're a little, I don't know, Brian's a little hater of the Jets, but we all got a little hate in us somewhere. I don't think you're as heavy. You do it in a joking manner, so I'll
He
let
likes to
you.
get under my skin.
Yeah, that's all
No,
it is. He did the
my
same with
thing
Lamar,
is,
so it's
I
good,
think
brother.
like what Chase is saying, but just to make it like a simpler way for everybody to kind of understand this, I just think, they use certain names as a good way to profile it. I think, so like we've seen Geno Smith has some god awful games, but when you turn on that TV, guess what? You don't hear nothing about Geno Smith. Ryan Tannehill, he's had some god awful games this year, and nothing gets said or they just brush by it. So I just think it's more so the clicks, who's doing like what's going to bring people in here.
Yeah.
Well, we know audiences are what California, Miami, up north. That's where you're going to get a lot of your stuff. At least for football, I feel like that's a general. So you're going to hear Brock Purdy, you're going to hear about Tua, you're going to hear about Josh Allen, and then
Zach
we can't help
Wilson.
it, but
Mac
Zach
Jones.
Wilson, Matt Jones, all those guys are going to get the media attention because a lot of those medias are really based there. I mean, to be honest. So I think that's a big thing. And then, like, kind of what we've said, we've all gave Tyrod Taylor some praise, but you turn on ESPN, they ain't going to be talking about Tyrod Taylor or any of them shows. So I just think it's more so just, I mean, Russell Wilson played great, I mean, last week. You think anybody's going to say anything about that?
No.
So I just think it's more so just the media, how it is now, just it's all about getting people in there and just who's going to bring them attention. And they're not going to talk about guys that are overperforming or doing well. I mean, I'll even say, when my team played against Dallas, they didn't really give Justin Herbert a hard time when he didn't play that great of a game. But you're not going to hear that just because who Justin Herbert is and how they know they look more so in the future what this guy's going to be more so than what's going on right now. And they're just trying to.
So that they can be right.
Yeah, till they can be right. That's what I mean. To them, they see it as a right game. Well, this guy, I don't need to waste my time talking about Geno because his story's done been wrote. Well, Tua's story isn't wrote, so we can go ahead and say he's got a noodle arm. He's going to underthrow some stuff. So I think that's where they know definitely in that game, that's a big tension getter. Everybody's going to watch that game. So when a big game like that happens, they're going to take whatever they can from those games and get that in their tape. So that's what people want to hear.
All right, that's fair. I just had one last thing to say on it. So both of you guys had fair points, and I agree with both of you guys. But like when they talk about Brock Purdy, they talk about all the reasons he can elevate an offense, right? When they talk about Tua, they think about all the reasons why he can't be elite and really make this offense that take it to the next level and why they need to trade him for someone else. Like that is the go-to talking point dang near every time Miami loses. Oh, yep, they need to trade Tua for somebody else. And it just gets old, man. That's really all it came down to. But yeah,
it's not NFL exclusives, brother. You know me, big Dame fan. I fell in love with Portland because of Dame Lillard, and every time he struggled to get anywhere in the playoffs because of this crap roster that was built around him, the first thing that was said was demand a trade. Get that man out of Portland. It's not a sport exclusive thing. It's around different players, different teams in every sport. Yeah. And honestly, it's why I enjoy podcasting. One of the big reasons I enjoy podcasting with you guys because I'm not trying to say anything to steer up a reaction for anybody. The way I feel is the way I feel about each guy, about each team. And I think y'all bring that as well to this pod. So it's just the way of the way of the landscape, really. But I think it was an interesting note to discuss on this pod. So good question there, Brian. We've got already 53 minutes in. We'll try to do our NFL landscape pod for the week, or the take for the week, and get wrapped up on this episode here. I'm going to do a short one. Y'all can just give a quick answer to it, honestly. Right now, I've got Puka Nacua as the NFL Rookie of the Year on offense. Obviously, preseason, I had my guy Zay Flowers. A lot of candidates early on, but do you have Puka winning that award by season's end? I know Cooper's Cup could cut into his production, but do you see any other guys? Jordan Addison, obviously a big game on Monday night. Zay Flowers been having a good year. Jackson Smith and Jigba got his first touchdown. A lot of good running back or wide receivers in this class that can take this award, as well as C.J. Stroud, who honestly, if Puka's not the favorite, then it's C.J. Stroud, because there's a good play being had in Houston in the QB room right now. So which player, could be Puka, CJ, whoever, ends up Offensive Rookie of the Year? I know you guys had a few different guys. I can't remember your preseason picks, but have you come off that? And who is it at the end of the year?
So I have a couple candidates that can compete with it at the very least. Jordan Addison, with Justin Jefferson being out and being the vocal point. We've seen the production he's put up, Justin Jefferson, and Kirk Cousins continues to produce. So I think he could have a monster year, especially if Justin Jefferson takes some time to get back. I don't think he will, but he looked really well. He looked really good the other night. And then CJ Stroud's obviously in contention. If he continues to do what he's doing, I think he has a good chance at it. And then my other guy that I think definitely will have a chance to compete at this is, I'm still really high on Bijan Robinson, man. I think that Atlanta could find the right ratio and get him in there, and he could explode down the stretch. And, I don't want to count that out. He's had some moments here and there, but kind of a quieter start than I thought he would have. But yeah, I'm going to go with CJ Stroud, Bijan, Jordan Addison competing with Puka for that. I ultimately think that Puka deserves it, honestly.
It's hard. It's hard for a wide receiver to win over a quarterback, but that's where I'm at as well, Brian. And I believe Bijan was your preseason pick, right? Yep. And Christian, I want to say yours was
Jahmyr
Gibbs for Detroit, right?
Yeah.
All right, so his involvement obviously brings a little worry. Have you moved off that pick, or where are you standing on the NFL Rookie of the Year watch?
I think you're going to have to go away from it just because of David Montgomery and what he's been doing with them and the offense. But I think another guy that, kind of been brought to my attention a little bit more, I was on the Anthony Richardson hype and kind of watching him, is Josh Downs. I mean, since Connor Mitchell's came in, his production's been insane. I think he's going to have back-to-back weeks now touchdowns. He's actually getting the production. So I think to see what he does with the rest of the season of his production, granted, he's going to have to catch up a lot to Puka Nacua, but that's when you're going to have to hope maybe Cooper Kupp can take away from him, if anything. But I think I'm going to just lean with C.J. Stroud just because it's a very dominant quarterback league, quarterback-driven awards. So if he keeps what he's doing, I think it can easily be him. But if it can very quickly turn in Houston and he'd be under the rug real quick if it goes to a bad season. But I would lean right now probably Puka, Jordan Addison, definitely without Jefferson, and then another guy that I think maybe could make some noise. Just because I don't want to say Robinson, just because for some reason Arthur Smith doesn't like handing him the ball, so can't get behind it just yet. And I just think Josh Downs is really their number 2 guy now, so I think he could get the production. He's led now in a couple of weeks too, being a number 1 on the charts for receiving. So that's another guy I just would look into, but CJ Stroud's got my vote right now.
I like it, guys. All right, go ahead and give us yours, and we'll get out.
All right, well, mine's very quick, maybe short, because we have already talked about it a little bit, but it is about Brock Purdy. So Brock Purdy, people say he's a great quarterback, better than Jimmy G, but I kind of held off on that now a little bit, saying that, Jimmy G's one throw away from being a Super Bowl champion, and maybe he is still the 49ers coach, or not coach, but quarterback. So, but I seen this the other day. Brock Purdy, when trailing in the fourth quarter, attempts 31 out of 12, so it's 12 for 31, passing yards 166, touchdown interception is 0.3, and his passer rating is 17.1. So I just, I hate to be this guy, but I don't remember Jimmy G ever having that bad of a game or when they're trailing. So I think just the Tua talk that Brian was just talking about, maybe get this guy out and get somebody else. You could easily send that up there to 49ers. Say, hey, if y'all actually had a great quarterback or a decent quarterback, maybe a Kirk Cousins or somebody of that caliber, this team looks totally different and even better than where y'all are now, and y'all think y'all are a Super Bowl team now. So just my takeaway is just, one, Brock Purdy's probably not as good as people think he is or make him out to be, is where I sit now. And then my second thing is just, if I'm a 49ers, I maybe am looking for my next quarterback already. I just don't think Brock Purdy is going to be a guy to win you a Super Bowl against some of these elite defenses, and going to have to be the one to put the team on his shoulder and lead the way to actually overcome and get some of these big-time wins when it does come to playoff time.
Okay. I hear you, Christian. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Monday night was very rough. I do have a question for your take. Answer your question with a question. How about this? Would you take Ryan Tannehill over Brock Purdy?
Am I putting him in the 49ers offense?
Yes, yes. Say the 49ers make a trade for Ryan Tannehill. Is the product better?
To me, I wouldn't take Ryan Tannehill this year just because of the injuries. But if I was getting someone that didn't have the injuries but's been in the league and
Derek
not
Carr.
very turnover, Derek Carr. My thing with Derek Carr this year is injuries and his arm just doesn't look right. He's throwing very short. Everything's simple. So, I mean, you're kind of downgrading both of those. I put Brock Purdy, honestly, above those guys, but Brock Purdy's also kind of in the middle of the pack to me. Like you can probably rank them like 19, 18. Maybe you can even go higher up in the 20s. But I mean, I'm more impressed with Baker Mayfield than Brock Purdy is right now. Like, I don't know if that's a big take, but I just think Baker Mayfield has shown better throws this year. Kind of gives this team, or they have to have a chance, and he's got to kind of make a play. He's done that, and just Brock Purdy hasn't done that this year.
I
I
think they're
don't think. Sorry, Brian, I'll go quickly here, but I don't think you're incorrect on that take. And honestly, we'd have to go back and check our NFL QB rankings preseason here. I don't think any of us had Brock Purdy above that 18, 17 threshold. And if there was a Kirk Cousins to be had, I think the Niners should consider very quickly making that move. But I mean, with that victory, who knows if Minnesota's ready to part ways with Kirk Cousins? I don't know. It may have to be you have to overpay. But as I said earlier, the Ravens, they weren't really in a position to make that overpay and be like, okay, you're going for it, take that swing. The Niners, they have that team. Like, they know they're a Super Bowl contender. Why not overpay and get a Kirk Cousins and be like, all right, this team is, how do you beat this team? So, I like the question, Christian. Yeah, Purdy trending down, and I don't really disagree with the narrative that he may not be the guy in San Fran, truthfully.
I think I'm going to go a little bit different direction, you guys. I think Brock Purdy can be the guy in San Francisco. I think he is a limited player, and people were just overhyping him. I think he is a middle of the back quarterback. I think he's a minor upgrade over Jimmy G, but I don't think it's major. I think it's a lot more to do that they're both good in the first few seconds of a play and making the correct reads and getting it to where it needs to go. But Purdy can extend the play a little bit longer to allow some of those playmakers to get up and down the field and maybe make something happen out of structure. I think he does offer that, and that's why this 49ers offense has been so tough to stop. However, that being said, I think he suffers from a lot of the same things that Jimmy G suffers from, Tua suffers from, and it's when you have to just do a standard drop back passing and your first read's not there, your second read's not there, you're not the best athlete in the world, so you can't just escape the pocket and make something happen. And you also don't have the strongest arm, so you can't missile launch the ball down the field in a tight window. None of those guys can do that. And but what Brock Purdy can do very well is operate the offense within structure, make a little something happen outside of structure, and get the ball where it needs to go when it needs to be there. So I think he probably is going to stay their quarterback and have a bunch of great games for them. But yeah, when players get hurt, he gets put in these situations, he's going to struggle.
Yeah, my last thing, just real quick on him, is just like you just said when the players are hurt. But I mean, they got to think in a couple of years now they're going to have to pay him. So one, he's going to have a price tag on him, and then those guys like Christian McCaffrey, Debo, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk's not going to be able. And then you keep a great defense. There's no way you're going to be able to keep all this together. So I just think if they're going to want to try to keep it together, they're going to have to go find another young quarterback or a veteran on cheap money to kind of keep going again where they're going in and trying to be Super Bowl bound. I just think, I mean, do you pay Brock Purdy like a Daniel Jones contract? I mean, that's the only thing I think. You can't pay him an elite quarterback and then expect him to be making things happen when it's just not the type of player he is.
I agree with you.
Yep. And that said, I still think San Fran can win a Super Bowl with him under center. That's how good this team is.
Yep.
So
they just can't be trailing. Is my take from that. They just cannot be down and make him have to be the reason they're winning the Super Bowl.
Christian McCaffrey's got to be healthy.
And that's
100%.
That's exactly why McCaffrey was my Offensive Player of the Year pick. I still think he's a very, very good football player, and it's balanced with playmakers elsewhere. So, obviously, back-to-back losses for San Fran, something to keep an eye on going forward. Brock Purdy's play and the talk around him. Brian, you got an NFL take for us on a player, anybody, before we finish up here?
I don't think we got to even really talk about it. My take was going to be related to Brock Purdy and Sam Darnold. I think Darnold isn't that far off from Brock Purdy.
Okay.
That's really what it was going to, and I talked about it a little bit earlier. I think Darnold's going to step into place and operate the offense at a decent clip. He's had some inconsistencies in the past and just head scratchers for sure. But Kyle Shanahan's a great coach. I think if he can save the talent that Sam Darnold has shown over the years in small glimpses, that this offense could really still click with him in the lineup.
Yeah, I agree. And we've seen a lot of Sam Darnold over the years in New York and in Carolina, and it's looked really bad at times. That said, he was a high draft pick for a reason. He can process a few things a different way than Brock Purdy could. So I'll be interested to see what he looks like if he does. Is it for sure he's suiting up this Sunday?
So Brock Purdy got entered in concussion protocol. He started experiencing symptoms on the plane ride home, and there has not been a single player this year that got placed under concussion protocol and made it out of concussion protocol within the same week. So very doubtful that he plays.
Yeah, well, I'll be very interested, especially given they're playing Cincinnati, a team that could really use a win to keep up with the Steelers and Ravens and the Browns in this division. So a big game to watch this weekend, especially considering the new quarterback under center for San Francisco coming off back-to-back losses. So a lot of 49ers talk on this pod, but I'm not against it because they're a huge talking point, a great team, and obviously quarterback is a dominant position in this league, the most dominant. So when there's suspect play there, that warrants the talk we put around this pod on that team and on that position. So a lot of good stuff from you guys today. Love talking to you as always. Unless you guys got anything else, we'll wrap it up here and get together for Sunday night. We'll try to get early as we can. I know Christian's Chargers is on the late window. We got back-to-back weeks of one of our teams playing Sunday night football. So we'll try to get as early as we can to allow Christian to watch that game against the Bears in prime time at home. It'll be a fun one to watch. And, of course, we will touch on all the 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and the Thursday night game action that happened that day, break down all that for you, and come back with a few takes from the week and players of our own. Until then, thank you guys for listening. As always, just like, share, subscribe, rate us, comment, all of that on the TikTok, YouTube, and Apple podcast feeds and Spotify, all that good stuff. Thank you, guys. We will see you next time. Peace.
Peace out.
Thank you, Eagles. Fly, Eagles, fly. I don't even think he ended it. Oh, there he goes. See?